It was another ordinary morning at the towering glass building of Shimizu Enterprises, but for Ethan Cole, it was just another day trying to stay invisible. His faded blue janitor uniform was damp from the mop bucket he pushed across the marble floor, his reflection distorted under the glow of the polished tiles. As executives brushed past him with briefcases and chatter about profits, Ethan kept his head down. He wasn't part of their world, not anymore. What none of them knew was that the quiet janitor who scrubbed their footprints away every morning had once stood in boardrooms himself, fluent in 3 languages, holding a master's degree in international business and dreaming of a better life for his little girl. But dreams can collapse faster than glass when life hits hard. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every story here reminds us that no matter how far we fall, compassion can lift us back up. Ethan's story began long before the mop and bucket. 3 years earlier, he had been a marketing consultant for an international firm. His wife, Rachel, had been the light of his life, a teacher with laughter that could turn their small apartment into a home. When she passed away unexpectedly from an aneurysm, Ethan's world shattered. He tried to hold things together for their 6-year-old daughter, Maya, but the medical bills piled up, the rent slipped behind, and his focus at work faltered. Within months, he lost everything: his job, his savings, and his sense of worth. Now, every morning before the sun rose, he would tie his work boots, pack Maya's school lunch, and leave her with their elderly neighbor, before heading to the corporate tower where he once dreamed of working in a suit. Life had become a cycle of mopping, sweeping, and swallowing pride. Yet, through it all, Ethan never let Maya see him broken. "Daddy, when you clean the big building, do people say, 'Thank you?'" she had once asked with innocent eyes. He smiled softly. "Sometimes they do, sweetheart, and sometimes thank you is in how the floors shine." That morning, the company was buzzing. Rumors spread that Shimizu Enterprises' new global CEO, a reclusive billionaire named Mr. Hiroto Tanaka, was visiting the headquarters in person. The Japanese magnate had built his empire through quiet precision and intellect. No one knew what to expect. The managers rehearsed their greetings, executives straightened ties, and every corner of the building was scrubbed to perfection, including the main atrium where Ethan worked. Ethan moved quietly between the rows of polished floors, his mop gliding in smooth arcs. The air was tense as the elevator chimed. Out stepped Mr. Tanaka, a tall, silver-haired man with calm eyes and an expression unreadable as stone. He was accompanied by 2 assistants, one carrying a tablet and the other translating. The staff bowed awkwardly, the manager spoke in rehearsed tones, and Tanaka simply nodded. His face revealed nothing. As they passed through the atrium, Tanaka's gaze briefly landed on Ethan. It was a fleeting glance, an invisible man doing an invisible job. Ethan quickly lowered his eyes. But just as the CEO began to walk away, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed. A junior manager, flustered and sweating, tripped over a cleaning sign and spilled hot coffee all over the marble floor, right near Tanaka's polished shoes. Gasps filled the air. The manager stammered apologies, but Tanaka's translator stepped forward, ready to intervene. Ethan, moving without hesitation, grabbed his mop and a cloth, kneeling to clean the mess before it spread. The manager barked at him. "Watch what you're doing. Do you have any idea who—" Ethan's quiet voice interrupted, not out of defiance, but calm precision. "Koremasen ka, kore wa watashi ni makasete kudasai." Every head turned. Tanaka froze. The janitor, this man in a faded uniform, had just spoken fluent Japanese. Perfectly. Tanaka's eyes widened slightly, then softened. The translator lowered his tablet, unsure what to do. Ethan kept his head bowed, continuing to clean, unaware of the stunned silence around him. The CEO spoke quietly in Japanese, his voice rich and steady. Anata wa nihongo o hanasemasu ka? Ethan looked up, his voice quiet but clear. Hi, Tsukoshi. I studied when I worked in Tokyo years ago. The manager's mouth fell open. The other employees looked at one another in disbelief. Tanaka took a step closer, studying the man before him. There was something deeply respectful in the way Ethan spoke. Humble, fluent, and genuine. The CEO said nothing more but gave a faint smile before walking on. For the rest of the morning, whispers spread like wildfire. The janitor spoke Japanese to the CEO. He used to work abroad. Who is he really? But Ethan ignored the stares. He wasn't proud, just quietly relieved that he hadn't embarrassed himself. Later that afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the lobby windows, Ethan was called to the 20th floor. He assumed it was about cleaning, maybe a spill or inspection. But when he stepped into the executive conference room, he froze. Mr. Tanaka sat at the long table, his assistants beside him, and the company's senior managers looked uneasy. Tanaka motioned for him to sit. Ethan hesitated. Sir, Tanaka raised a hand, gently pleased through the translator. Tanaka asked about Ethan's background. Slowly, Ethan explained. He told them how he had studied business at the University of California, how he had once worked for a global firm, how he had lived briefly in Tokyo during a corporate exchange program. He shared how life had changed after his wife passed away and how he had taken any job he could to care for his daughter. By the time he finished, the room was silent. The managers shifted uncomfortably, realizing how they had looked past him for months without ever asking his story. Tanaka spoke softly, this time, without a translator. You understand humility, he said in English. That is rare. Ethan smiled faintly, unsure how to respond. The CEO stood, walked over, and extended his hand. Would you join me for lunch? The janitor blinked. The manager's eyes widened, but Ethan, unsure if he had heard correctly, nodded quietly. They sat in the executive dining room, an ocean view glimmering through tall windows. Over sushi and tea, Tanaka spoke about his own journey, how he had once been a poor student working part-time as a cleaner at a hotel in Osaka. One day, Tanaka said, a guest treated me like a person, not a uniform. It changed how I saw leadership. Ethan listened intently, humbled and grateful. When Tanaka asked what he hoped for the future, Ethan's voice trembled slightly. I just want to give my daughter a life better than mine. She's all I have. Tanaka's gaze softened. Then you are already rich, he said quietly. The next morning, Ethan returned to his routine, not expecting anything to come from their meeting. But just before noon, HR called him in. They handed him a letter bearing the CEO's signature. Inside was an offer, a full scholarship for Maya's education and a new position in the company's international relations department, where Ethan's language skills and background would be valued. He couldn't believe it. Tears welled in his eyes as he clutched the letter. When he came home that evening, Maya was waiting at the door. He lifted her in his arms, whispering, Daddy got a new job. Does that mean you don't have to clean floors anymore? She asked softly. He smiled, tears sliding down his cheeks. No, sweetheart, but I'll never forget where those floors led me. Over the next few months, Ethan's life began to change. He wore suits again, not to show status, but to honor the journey that had shaped him. He often visited the janitorial staff during breaks, greeting them with the same kindness that Tanaka had shown him. The company culture slowly shifted. 2. Employees began treating service workers with more respect, understanding that everyone carries unseen battles. Months later, during a company event, Tanaka publicly shared Ethan's story. Greatness, the CEO said, is not in titles or wealth. It is in humility, in resilience, and in how we treat those who clean the paths we walk on. The entire room stood in applause, and Ethan, standing quietly in the crowd, felt tears burning behind his eyes. He looked at the polished, marble floors beneath his shoes, the same floors he once mopped, They shone brighter than ever, reflecting not just light, but redemption. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us share real stories of hope, courage, and second chances with the world. Before you go, comment below, everyone deserves a second chance. Because sometimes the ones cleaning the floors are the ones who teach the world how to stand tall again.